Yeah.
Okay, I've got it recording. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our first coaching session for the semester. Thank you for joining with us this evening. I hope others are going to join over the next few minutes. It's very, very important that you try the best that you can to be with us live during these sessions. I think that well, it's the truth. Students that have a tendency to show up live have a tendency to be much more successful in the program. So thank you for being here. And I encourage you to, for your Tuesday night sessions and when we have Thursday night sessions, to be with us live as much as possible. I'm going to share my screen and show you basically what this evening is going to look like. This is the agenda, and we're going to try to follow it as closely as possible. We have with us this evening our distinguished Dr. Lamb, who is our boss and our leader. We have Dr. Revis, we have Dr. Hamilton, and we have Dr. Crawford, and these are your instructors and your coaches for the semester, as well as myself. Dr. Lamb will open up with some comments to begin with, and then Dr. Hamilton is going to do a brief introduction to APA, and then she's going to follow up with reminding you of our sessions next week with Dr. Natalie Bishop, and then Dr. Hamilton, if you would go back and actually show them where they can find those links to join next week so that we can make sure that they know what to do. Then after that, we did a brief introduction on Tuesday evening, Evidence 1, the AAPSL. Our goal this evening is we want to give you an overview of the entire AAPSL process so that you can have an understanding of when you start something, what you're going to be accomplishing at the end. We will not spend a lot of time with task 3, 4, and 5, but we will spend more time with task 1 and task 2, especially task 1. And then I'll bring closure to it, and then Dr. Lamb will have some comments about task stream. I put it at the end, Dr. Lamb. You can say it whenever you want to, and then we will give you time at the end for questions and answers. I'm going to ask you, to the best of your ability, hold your questions if you can while we're talking, because probably if you listen, we will answer that question. If we don't, we will answer it. You can put something into the chat box, and instructors will look at that and grade it or respond to you. But when you do that, that means that you're not able to listen to what's going on. So if you can, try your best to listen and know that we will spend some time at the end answering anything that maybe is still not clear to you. So with that in mind, I'm going to quit sharing, and I'm going to ask Dr. Lamb if he would to speak at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Stedman. Welcome everybody. Welcome back. I hope you were with us on Tuesday night. This is the MELS program with Gardner Webb. Congratulations, and thank you for choosing Gardner Webb. As Dr. Stedman told you, Tuesday night, we'll do about 5 of these. I'll do, mostly what I will do would be technology. And how to use Blackboard, how to use YouTube, how to use Zoom, how to use TaskStream, and those kinds of things, those technology applications. I will start that next week. Hopefully you will have learned how to navigate Blackboard by then. I'm going to speak to one issue in Blackboard now. Please make sure and encourage your classmates, your Zoom team members to complete the enrollment verification activity. Let me share my screen quickly. Under course overview in all of your courses, there's an enrollment verification activity. You need to verify your enrollment. And you also need to go into your 698 clinical shell. Even if you aren't going to be using that shell this semester, you're going to be using the shell that has your clinical coach's name on it. You should have 3 shells now under My Courses and Blackboard. You should have your 601 class, you should have a 698 internship shell, and then you should have a clinical internship shell with your clinical coach's name, either Revis, Crawford, or Stedman. You will have a shell with their name that you'll be working with them individually in. But I need you to go in your 601 and 698 shells and complete this enrollment verification activity. Make sure you get verified, because I'm going to talk about TaskStream in just a minute, and I can't get you a TaskStream account until you have verified in Blackboard. Therein lies our issue. Just like with our work that we do in the MELS program, we complete it all in Blackboard and then we export it to TaskStream for the state grading. That's kind of the relationship. You have to do this piece. You have to do this piece in Blackboard before I can get the university to purchase you an account for TaskStream so that I can get you in there. So you must verify that you are enrolled in this course and not drop before the drop it add deadline. I need for you to verify to make sure you're attending. And then I will be able to, as soon as drop add is over sometime next week, I will be able to purchase your account and get you into TaskStream. So please make sure that you verify your enrollment. All right, enough on that. I want to talk briefly about TaskStream, and then I'm going to turn it over to these professionals who work in the field to work with you tonight. Let me move to my other one. When we start working with TaskStream, it's very important you will get a link from Watermark, and that's why I want you to see this screen. You notice that TaskStream is owned by Watermark. They're one of the companies that Watermark bought. They have a little consortium of companies. Watermark you will get an email from them that invites you to establish your TaskStream account. Now, I can't get you in TaskStream. I can't get the TaskStream person. The only way we can get you in is when you get this link, is that you complete your verification and enrollment. After you verified in Blackboard, you can then enroll in TaskStream once you get this email from Watermark. Now, here's the thing to remember. If you can't remember, you like me, you get old, write it down. I've got 1, 2, 3 different pads here to write things down for the different things that I do. You get old. If you can't remember, write it down. So if you can't remember, write it down. You're going to get an email from Watermark. You have 24 hours to respond to that email and register. That link will expire in 24 hours. And then we'll have to have them send you another one. Now, if you hadn't noticed, I am a very large man. And Miss Turbyfield, the TaskStream lady, she's a small lady, but I'm afraid of her as she's a bear. She does not like to send but one link for you to establish your account. One. And I will have knuckle bumps all over me if you let that account link expire and don't go in and do that. So that's the big deal. Is you'll get a link from Watermark to establish your TaskStream account. Once it's been purchased, you got 24 hours to go in. The link expires after that. When you go in, do not send me an email that says my link expired. This doesn't work. You need to send that to Ms. Turbyfield so she won't get so mad at me. But the quick fix on that is to go in and establish your account as soon as you get it. Now, a couple more secrets. Do not, do you remember? Remember when you were a kid and your mama said, quit picking at it, leave it alone, don't bother it? That's the advice for TaskStream as well. They will send you this and you will have an account. Don't go in and start trying to change username and password. Don't do that. Because number one, if you change your username and password from what is set up for you by Ms. Turbyfield when you register your account, if you change it and then you forget it and can't get in, guess what? We can't help you. You're gonna have to pay $159 and get another account. Nothing we can do to fix that. Do not change your username and password. And if you do, have them tattooed somewhere on your body, where you can't lose that either. But part of the problem too is sometimes students go in and try to change that username and password, and they pick one that's inappropriate, that's not really allowed by Gardner Webb or whatever. And for whatever reason, it invalidates your account. We have to start the whole process over again. So to be safe and secure, get that watermark email. It may go to your spam. Be looking for it when I tell you. Make sure that you find that. It'll go to your Gardner Webb email, which you should be checking every day. You go in, you complete that link. Don't change the username and password. Establish your account. Once you do that, I'll be able to get you in your group, and we'll start probably about the third week. We'll start training in TaskStream on how to use TaskStream. If you need additional support for any of the other technology platforms right now, if you don't know how to use YouTube to upload your links, if you don't know how to use Zoom to record your videos, I am going to cover all of those things in depth next week. A week from today, I will cover all of those. We'll dive in and do YouTube, and obviously we'll do Zoom with how it feeds you. If you are having problems with Blackboard, I will cover that Tuesday night. When we're on Tuesday night, I'll come on, and what I'll do is I'll take you to a separate group and work with you individually on Tuesday night if you're having problems with Blackboard still. There have been some issues with Blackboard. There are technical issues. I've been working through those with the Blackboard people today. I've got one I've got to get on now. One of our instructors has had a crash, and so I'm working on that. This is capacity issues from the university. It's not, we didn't know what we were doing. It's just they're having technology issues, and so we're working through some of those. But if you don't know how to use Blackboard, I'll work with you Tuesday night. I'll start working with you with Zoom and YouTube on Thursday night. Make sure you do your enrollment verification so that I can get you a TaskStream account. When you get that email, go in within 24 hours, establish your account. Do not change your username or password. He said, okay, I believe that's all I've got.
Okay, good. And I figured you would need to do something else. That's why I went ahead and put you at the front.
Yeah. All right. So I will see y'all Tuesday night briefly. Again, if you need help with Blackboard, I'll be try to work it out. But if you can't, I will be there to support you on Tuesday night with Blackboard, and then we'll go to YouTube and Zoom on Thursday night. Everybody have a good week, good weekend. Thank you all. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Dr. Lamb. And I would advise you, if any of you do have a problem with Blackboard, go ahead and let your one of us know, so that we can go ahead and we can maybe circumvent things from even waiting until Tuesday if you are having issues. So let Dr. Revitz, Dr. Hamilton, or me know if you are having problems with Blackboard at all. Dr. Hamilton, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, and she's going to do just a very brief introduction to the APA process.
Okay, can you see my APA PowerPoint, Dr. Stedman?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. So good evening. I am Robin Hamilton, and welcome. And again, thank you for choosing Gardner Webb and for giving us the opportunity to work with you. And I'm sure you can already tell the best part of our jobs may be getting to work with Dr. Lamb and all his Dale-isms. So he's certainly a treat. So I'm glad y'all are here and glad you get to learn from him and enjoy him like we do too. So this is just going to be a brief APA 7th edition overview because next week, Dr. Natalie Bishop will be having 2 sessions, one on Tuesday the 18th at 6 and one on Thursday the 20th at 6. You only need to attend one of these 2 sessions. But you do need to attend one of these sessions, and you are more than welcome to attend both if you want. And then in addition to that, and this brief overview, other resources will be available for you in Blackboard, and your professors will have this, and they will probably upload it in week 1 for you. Here are just some links for you.
Dr. Hamilton, to remind them where they can find the links to join Dr. Bishop's sessions on Tuesday.
Sure. Correct. In my Blackboard, I have it listed under week 2 because that's the week that we're actually doing it. I just have it listed right there.
Okay.
And then I also have it at the bottom of the course overview page.
Exactly.
So if you all have something different than that.
No, that is it as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank
Here are just, go ahead.
I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Here are just a few links that when you do come upon something that you're unsure about what to do, that you can go to the Garden Web Library guides, and we're going to look at some of that in just a moment. That's there for you. There's also a reference chat for Ask a Librarian at Gardner Web, and Purdue OWL also has some APA information for you so that when you come up with something, and of course, purchasing the APA 7th edition is a great idea, especially since you will be using that throughout your coursework, and that is what we have to go by now. Abbreviations and acronyms. If you're going to use an acronym at least 3 times, then or abbreviations at least 3 times, then you can use that acronym in your paper. If you're not going to use it 3 times, then don't abbreviate it. Instead, you're going to spell out the word or phrase completely each time you use it. So if I was going to say Parsley Elementary School and I was only going to say it twice in my paper, I would spell out Parsley Elementary School both times. But if I was going to use it 3 or more times, after the first entry, I would write Parsley Elementary School, put PES as the acronym, and then from there on out in my paper, I would only put PES. I would not rewrite out Parsley Elementary School. Headings and capitalization. So you're going to have your AAPSL template, and you'll also have a template for the AAPTEL. Follow the template. Do not change the template. We talked about that Monday, and we talked about that Tuesday. Most of your template's going to be double spaced, and you will do that there. And then, but there are some parts, like in some of the directions, that are single spaced, and you'll leave that like it is. Anything that's written in black remains in black. Anything like this example I have here that's highlighted in yellow, that tells you that you need to write a narrative text there. And so what you will do is you'll know that, hey, I've got to write something here, but then you're going to remove that yellow highlighting before you submit your paper. And then anything in red is just information for you to sort of guide you along, but you need to delete the red text before submitting your paper. In APA 7th edition, in a heading, the first word is capitalized, but subsequent words are lowercase. And you'll notice that your template is this way. So in this example, PLC, Professional Learning Community Acronym, is capitalized because that's the first word. The second word, research, is lowercase. Proper names are capitalized in APA 7th edition, but in APA 7th edition, not as many things as you may think would be capitalized. So when you're capitalizing, you're going to err on the side of lowercase letters. And we can always help you if needed, if something's really tricky for you. Another change in APA 7th edition is that they is now a singular pronoun. And I'm still not sure I'm saying that right, but they is a singular pronoun. So that's a change. Figures. Any of your charts, tables, or graphs are going to be labeled as a figure in all the work that you submit. So your first figure will be figure 1. Your second figure will be figure 2. And they have to go in sequential order throughout your entire paper. You're going to use the Arabic numerals, figure numeral 1, figure numeral 2. That's going to be your heading. And of course, then it is based on the order in which the figure appears in your work. Right underneath figure, which is going to be in bold, the word figure 1, figure 2 will be in bold. Underneath that figure and the number, you are going to write a title, and that's going to be in italics. The title should just be brief and clear, and it should explain a little like about what we're seeing. So both the title and the number should be double spaced. So here's an example for you. So figure 1, it's left justified, it's in bold, and then you would have a title figure right there. And you're going to double space it, and then it is going to be in italics. You'll have your figure there. And then please note that under the figure, you're going to have a note. The word note is going to be left justified as well. It's going to be in italics, and then you're going to put a period. Then, not in italics, you're going to just put a little note right there describing the content that we're seeing in the figure. What does the figure show us? So you'll have your figure, whether it's a graph, a chart, a table, or whatever it is, it's going to be called a figure. In sequential order, bold, in italics, the title, and then beneath a note that describes what you see. APA 7th edition is in first person. Now, first person does not mean a personal narrative. This is still a professional paper. Now, you will have some personal narrative based on the work that you're doing, like describing your PLC selection and things like that. But as far as research is concerned, this does not mean this is a personal narrative. This is just first person, and it's first person active voice. So the best way to think about this is that the subject needs to be doing the action to be active voice. When the subject comes after the verb, it often makes it passive. The dog, subject, ran after the cat. If you said running after the cat, the dog passed out, that makes it passive. So just think about that. The subject does the action to keep it active. Also, singular versus plural. These are some tricky things right here. Data are plural. Datum, singular. Appendix, one. Appendix, appendix A, appendix B. Appendices would be the collection of your individual appendix at the very end of your paper, and you will have those. You'll label each one Appendix A, Appendix B, Appendix C, but the collective part of it at the end of your paper are appendices. Quotations. Please, I encourage you to limit your use of direct quotes. It does make your paper easier to read when you do not have a lot of direct quotes. I think that it reduces the chances of plagiarism, and it shows that you really synthesized your research and your knowledge to bring everything together. So when you do use a direct quote, a quoted text, the text has to be in quotation marks, and then you do have to have that in-text citation with the author, the year, and the page number where that direct quote came from. When you paraphrase or summarize your research or the author's writing, please, you still have to give credit to that original source with an in-text citation. But you may be combining ideas from across multiple sources when you do that. And when you're doing that, a page number is not needed. So only on the direct quotes are page numbers needed. And if you have a long quote of 40 or more words, and I again caution you about that, there's a special format that you can go to the library guide and look that up, but there's a block quote format for that process. Your references and appendices, your references for your in-text citations come at the end of each section. So you will merge those references at the end of like the AAPSL. You'll bring them all together at the very end, and your reference section will be in alphabetical order. So any reference at the end of your paper must have a corresponding in-text citation in your paper, and any in-text citation in your paper must have a corresponding reference in the reference section. And that's a great thing when you start peer reviews that you can help your peers with as well when you're reviewing those papers. And then the appendices are at the very, very end, and those are listed in sequential order. So the first appendix referenced in your paper, Appendix A, then Appendix A will correspond with that at the very end. So your very first one will more than likely be your email from your principal giving you permission to convene a PLC in your school. So when you're talking about that in task 1 about convening a PLC and you gained permission from your principal, you'll say in parentheses, see Appendix A. And then when you go to the very bottom of your paper, Appendix A would be a screenshot of that email giving you permission for the PLC. And just like the figures, everything goes in sequential order. Now your reference list does have a hanging indent and it is double spaced. And there's a link right there that you can go to about formatting that reference list. And as I said, your reference list does have the hanging indents. They have to follow APA formatting rules. And I'm going to stop this for just a second because I don't think I turned on the sound, but there's a little video in the Gardner Webb Library that we're going to watch, and I promise y'all it is like maybe less than a minute. I'm not sure. Tell me if you can't see or hear this.
This video will show you how to create a hanging indent for a citation in Microsoft Word. Begin by highlighting your citation. In the paragraph section of the Microsoft Word toolbar, click the expander icon to pop up the full paragraph editing box. In the second section, click the drop-down menu under the special heading. Choose Hanging and click OK. Now your citation has a hanging indent.
Okay. So it is as easy as that, and that is there for you so you can watch that again as well. And it's also available in the Gardner Webb Library resources. We're going to talk just a minute about a reference versus an in-text citation. We're going to continue with that. Of course, the reference list is at the end of your paper. The only thing after that will be your appendices. And that has the hanging indent. It is double spaced. And there are two kinds of citations in your paper. A parenthetical citation, and that is when the author's name and year are both inside the parentheses. So if you said, effective kindergarten transitions increases the likelihood that students will be reading on grade level at the end of the year, then you could put in parentheses Hamilton, comma, 2013, in parentheses, period. Or you could say Hamilton, parentheses, for a narrative citation, Hamilton, parentheses, 2013, stated that kindergarten transitions enhance the likelihood that children will be proficient in reading. So the two different kinds of citations right there for you. Now, a difference for us in APA 7th is when there are one or two authors, there is no change. So if it's one author, two authors, and of course, these are parenthetical citations. But the change is 3 or more authors. When you have 3 or more authors in a work, only the first author's name is listed. So you put the author's name, et, space, all, al, period, comma, and the year, close parentheses. Now in this example, McCartney et al., 2016, page 34, that indicates to me that that must be a direct quote because the page number is there. So here's just another little picture of that. Here are 4 authors from 2018. You would not list them all. You would only list the first one, Taylor et al., 2018. So the message behind that is if you're going to be in a group publication, be the first one listed. Another huge change for us in APA 7. In APA 6, when you put your punctuation at the end of a sentence, you put 2 spaces. In APA 7, we're back to 1 space following punctuation. So that is a big change as well. Gardner Webb does give option, or APA 7th edition does give options for the font, but Gardner Webb Education Department does request that you use Times New Roman 12 point. And last but not least, something important to remember, numbers 0 through 9 are written in word form. This does not apply to your figures. You use the Arabic numerals in your figures. However, in your narrative, 0 through 9 are written in word form, and never begin or end a sentence using numerals. So if you're saying 70% of students at my school receive English as a second language service, you will not put 70 in the percent sign. You would write out SEVENTYPERCENT, because that would be at the beginning of the sentence. So that's a brief overview to get you started, and Dr. Bishop will be much better than that and more in depth next week. Thank you. Dr. Stedman, you're still muted.
You're muted.
Okay, got it now. Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. And like she said, it was a brief overview, an excellent brief overview, but Dr. Bishop will do an excellent job just expounding on everything that Dr. Hamilton has introduced on Tuesday and on Thursday. Please make sure that you join in on one or both of those times. It's very, very, very important. As was introduced to you on Tuesday evening and during town hall, over the course of this program, you will be a very writing intensive program, and you'll be responsible for completing 6 evidences. And for this semester, you'll be working with evidence 1, which is the AAPSL, and evidence 2, the AAPTL, which you've already been introduced to. The AAPSL is evidence 1, the one that we began working with you with on Tuesday evening. And the AAPSL is the analysis and action plan for student learning. You always begin with the student, because that's why we do what we do. It's all about the student. And the ultimate, what we do is about student achievement. It's all centered around student achievement and helping students grow academically in the work that they do. So naturally, that's why we begin with the student. We begin with why we're there to begin with. So that is what we're going to talk with you about over the next few minutes. What is evidence 1? What is the AAPSL? What is it that you're going to be doing over the next few weeks? The AAPSL is divided into 5 tasks. And it's important that you understand you're going to begin with task 1, but you need to understand why you're doing task 1. The importance of task 1 is better understood when you know what task 2 is about, what task 3 is about, what task 4 is about, and then task 5. So we're going to do a quick overview of all of the tasks with a main focus on task 1 that you need to get started on immediately. And then we're going to do almost an equal focus on task 2, because you move into that pretty quickly as well. So I'm going to be quiet, and I'm going to turn it over to experts at this time. And I'm going to go back to Dr. Hamilton, who is going to introduce you to task 1. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to come back to task 1, but it'll be in a different way that I come back to task 1. So Dr. Hamilton, again, I gave you enough time to get your breath, and if you'll start with task 1, please. Okay, can't hear you.
Thank you. In task 1, I will direct you to Blackboard, and under your AAPSL materials, template and materials, you'll find document labeled AAPSL helpful hints. And these helpful hints are very, very helpful, and you have great examples there. So before you begin your task one, you are going to do your
Dr. Hamilton, please excuse me. I forgot. Let's go back. Dr. Crawford, I apologize. Dr. Crawford needs to start. I completely looked at the wrong thing. Dr. Crawford's going to begin with our school profile, and I do apologize for that oversight.
Thank you.
Dr. Crawford?
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Yeah, thank.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get the first question that I know is coming out of the way. How long should our school profile be? So let me answer that question by saying this. It doesn't need to be the Iliad, and you probably want a little more than pages 1 and 2 of Fox and Socks. What you want to do with your school profile is paint a picture of your school. What you want to do is give us an idea of what is going on in your building. I'm going to show you an example of one here in a second. But you want to paint a picture of your school. Give us the most recent context. Question number 2 is going to be, well, where do I find this? Well, you have a couple of places that you can look right off the bat. One, if you can get access to your school's improvement plan. In the school improvement plan, there is typically an overview of the school, a comprehensive overview of the school that you can look, and you can pull most of your information from there. A lot of you will, because there are certain specific things that are going on in your town or your city, that will lend itself to talking about what's going on with the school. So I had a student last semester where the school was built on donated farmland from a prominent community member. That's something that you want to add. So again, what do you put in there? I'm going to show you one in a minute. You want to put things in there that are specific to your school and that paint that picture. So for instance, if I were doing this, something specific that I would write or that I would make sure that I include in my school's current profile would be the fact that at the end of 2021, one of the housing projects that my school formerly served was shuttered by the High Point Housing Authority. The housing project was shuttered because the High Point Housing Authority received a federal Hope 6 grant, and they're going to be putting new mixed-use housing on that site. What that meant for me was beginning last year, about a 15 to 20% loss of students, which is pretty significant when you're already working with a small school. That's something that I would add. That's kind of a specific detail that I would add in my school's profile. So let me show you one that I think kind of gives you a good overview of, hang on, I thought I had it pulled up. So let me pull it up first because this thing is janky. Here we go. Okay. Go back here, and I'll share, and there it is. Okay. Since I am a native Bostonian, I just kind of went to a school that at one point in my life I had hoped to attend, and it's Boston Latin Academy. And so if you look at some of the specifics that they have here in their About Me page, first of all, you learn that the school is 143 years old. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the, if not the oldest high school continuously running in the country. Started off as a girls' Latin school in 1878. It's 25 years old by 1903. It gives a breakdown of the school, including the grade span. So it's a 712 school with nearly nearly 1,800 students. It breaks down the academics. It talks about residency requirements. It gives an overview of the school's mission. Now this is just, again, an overview. It doesn't give a lot of specifics or anything specific to anything updated that might have affected the schools. It talks about, why they do what they do, and so on and so forth. And, right here, the last bit, they mention that being ranked in the top 20% in US News and World Reports. Okay. So again, this is a brief overview of the school. You wouldn't want to take this as a shell for your background, and then you might want to include, again, only things that may be specific and things that may directly affect your school. But again, those are going to look different from school profile to school profile. Where are you? Are you in the, so again, just kind of going on my time there. If you are in Charlotte Mech, schools that are in the inner 277 corridor are a lot different than the schools that are in the extreme northern or southern regions of the county. So what you would write if you were at, say, West Charlotte is going to look a lot different than what you would write if you were, say, at Providence. If you were in a rural county, then say that, because life in rural counties is very different than life in large urban schools. So at the end, what we want is a picture of what your school looks like and any special circumstances your school may be inquiring or may be going through. That's going to give us an idea of exactly what's going on in your building. Okay, so again, no, we don't need the Iliad, but you want to make it comprehensive enough to where I can read it and say, okay, I know what's going on. So, for instance, something, if you get your hands on it, if you have let's say you're at a small school and you have a teaching staff of 18 teachers, core teachers, it would be a pretty significant thing for us to need to know if of those 18 teachers, 10 are first year and 6 are lateral entry. Okay, that's a pretty significant staffing situation that you might want to include as your school's background. Again, if you know that information, start with your school improvement plan, and you can work from there. The other thing I want to caution you on as you are putting this profile together, when you're putting elements of the school, and for those of you that are going to add elements of the surrounding town or county, please make sure that you cite that information. Okay, the rule is if it is not common or commonly accepted knowledge, then it must be cited. So yes, you may know that Caldwell County has 25,000 residents. That's not common knowledge, and so you'd want to cite where you receive that information. If you're doing some information that's school specific, that you cited it from your school's website, that's fine. Whether it's your school's website or your school district's website, that's fine to cite that. But just make sure that as you're putting in all that information, if it's not common knowledge or if it's not commonly held knowledge, then it's information that must be cited, and then make sure you include that citation in your reference section. All right, and I'll be back around for a quick overview of the some of the competencies that you'll be working on in the AAPSL as well. Thank you.
Okay.
If you have any questions, guys, let's put them in the chat and we'll try to answer them as we go.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Crawford. And remember, in the AAPSL templated materials, you have an example of what this looks like in a completed example and in your helpful hints. Go ahead, Dr. Hamilton.
Okay, thank you. So in task 1, your AAPSL has 5 tasks, and in those tasks you have prompts. So in task 1, the first thing you're going to do is PLC research. You're going to research professional learning communities, and through your research, you are doing this to develop a deep understanding of the concept of PLCs and what PLCs look like in practice. Now, what I have pulled up, and I alluded to this a moment ago, was in your Blackboard under AAPSL template and materials, you'll see this AAPSL helpful hints. This is a very good document for you to pull up where you can have examples and get some, it'll just really help you a lot if you'll do that. So the first heading is PLC. And notice again that the acronym PLC is capitalized to align with APA 7th edition, and the word research is lowercase. The heading is left justified, and it is in bold. Your PLC research requires a minimum of 3 sources. One of those sources must be Richard DeFore. When writing about or reporting your research findings, you read your sources and then you synthesize your findings. This is not a place for you to tell about yourself or what you do or what's being done at your school. This is a place for you to report about what the research says about effective PLCs. You must cite the source for each of your statements. For each in-text citation, there must be a corresponding citation in the reference section at the end of your paper. Use direct quotes sparingly. The information always reads better when you synthesize your information. So that is going to be your PLC research, where you have at least 3 sources, one of which must be DeFore. Your second section of task 1 is your PLC selection. Now, this is where you choose who's going to serve on your PLC. Note that the heading is in the same APA 7th edition formatting as your first heading. And in this section, you're going to describe the strategic steps that you took to select peers for your PLC. You're going to describe their strengths and areas of expertise that will make them a valuable member of your professional learning community. In this section, please remember to include that you ask your principal for permission to convene a PLC. You need to have written confirmation from your principal, and that's going to be in there as Appendix A. You'll list in this section, list each member of your PLC team and provide information about what that person brings to your team. That could include information like years of experience, degrees that they hold, certificates that they hold. You can list strengths, such as strengths in data analysis, successful test scores, anything like that. You could even just say, this person is just such a willing, positive person, and they want to do anything they can to help the children in our school, and they wanted to participate. As I told our class on Tuesday night, you want people who are going to work with you. So choose carefully. And then in the third section, you are going to write about your first PLC meeting. You're going to convene your PLC meeting, and you're going to write about that. Now, so you're going to have details of that meeting, such as the time, date, and location. You're going to express how you demonstrated leadership through tasks such as providing the team with ample notice of the meeting, surveying the team to determine when the best time to meet that works for everybody. You're going to prepare an agenda. You're going to use technology for presenting that agenda or other information to your team. You need to implement the knowledge and skills that you learned from your PLC research in this area. You need to include information such as creating group norms and expectations for meetings. Any artifacts that you have from this meeting, such as an agenda, an attendance roster, or anything like that, should be referenced and included as an appendix. During this meeting, discuss the vision and the purpose of your PLC, and make sure that your mission complements the mission of the school, the district, and the state. Now, when you have this meeting, you are not having this meeting to determine your most pressing need. That will happen in task 2. This is simply to establish rules, norms, expectation, and a vision of your PLC. And at the end of every section in all your work, remember to conclude with some kind of a summation that sums up in a professional way sort of what you just presented, just in a sentence or so. And if you can connect that with what's getting ready to help next, that just enhances your writing and makes it stronger. So that's an overview of task 1.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. We're going to move on to task to Dr. Revis.
Good evening. I hope everybody is having a good week, and we're almost at the end of that week. And for some reason, okay, here we go. What I'm going to talk about very quickly and briefly is task 2. I don't want you to get so bogged down in task 2 that it takes your emphasis off of task 1, because that's what's in your mind and should be on your plate right out of the gate. So task 2, I call this is where we're doing our data dive. And this is where you will meet with your PLC and you will determine together, as you're facilitating that PLC, what data sets we will collect. Now, remember, guys, we're talking here about student learning data. That would be your student performance data and your student growth data. We are not looking at discipline data or attendance data or anything like that. This has to be focused on student learning data, such as that comes from your state assessments. The next thing that you and your PLC will determine is how are we going to examine these data sets? And then we will talk about how we will determine the most pressing need. And finally, you will identify your most pressing need. After you complete this part, task 1 and 2, that's when you're going to have a meeting with your principal or leadership team, and you're going to share with them what your PLC, how they have collected data, how they've analyzed the data, and how you've determined your most pressing need and identifying that most pressing need.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Revis. And that's important to know because many of you already, you've got preconceived ideas about what that pressing need is. And it may be valid, but you cannot supersede the process, because we have found out in many cases what you think is actually not what the most pressing need is at your school. So do not get ahead of the process, follow the process, and then, and then at the end of the day, if the most pressing need is differently than what you and your principal has talked about, it's still going to be your principal's decision what they want you to do. However, you will understand the process. So that I felt like it was important to move on and you understand why you're doing task 1 and what it's leading to. Dr. Hamilton, task 3.
Okay, I think I'm ready. In task 3, you're going to move from that problem or your most pressing need that you identified with your PLC, and you're going to try to find a research-based solution to that problem. You'll conduct research, and then you'll present the solutions or that research to your PLC. You need to organize this information in a presentation that will enable your PLC to collaboratively make a decision about the best solution to your most pressing need. Now in task 3, we have 2 prompts. Prompt 1 is going to be all research. Your research in task 3, and I'm back in the helpful hints document, just so you know back where I am. But your research in task 3 will be presented through a literature review and an annotated bibliography. Now, this is all narrative writing. Just like in task 1, this will simply be a report of your analysis of the literature. The difference between a literature review and an annotated bibliography is that a literature review is a synthesis of multiple research sources, and an annotated bibliography reports out each source separately. All of task 3, prompt 1, is a written narrative. In task 3, prompt 1, you're going to research best practices that align with the results of your most pressing need. You need, in your literature review, at least 3 best practices that, well, not in your literature review, but you're going to need at least 3 best practices that are in the form of technology that's not currently being used at your school by this group of students. The literature review has to have at least 3 sources. And that are about best practices that could address your most pressing needs. So the literature review that you synthesized together, just like you did in task 1, you have to have at least 3 sources. Now, when you get down to your annotated bibliography, and you'll see an example here of the hanging indent of that and how that looks, you have to have at least 8 sources, 5 regular sources and 3 online sources where you have researched online tools that are not currently being used at your school. So that's task 3, prompt 1. And in task 3, prompt 2, that is going to basically be the visual representations of what was in task 3, prompt 1. Now you are still going to have some narrative in task 3, prompt 2. Now, when we say visual representations, we mean multiple representations, not visual representations, not just one. And remember, these will be labeled as figures. You're going to create these visual representations with your PLC. Now, begin this section with a little introduction about your PLC's collaboration and then move straight on into the visuals. It will strengthen your AAPSL if you add a comparison chart demonstrating where you worked with your PLC to compare and contrast the 3 different online tools to help your PLC come to a collaborative decision about which of the online tools is best for the students. And then at the very, let me show you that right quick in this example. So here is the figure for one online tool that this PLC looked at. Here's another figure and then another one. And then here, right here, figure 11 is a comparison of resources. So they've taken the 3 resources that they analyzed in their PLC. How much does it cost? What are the pluses and what are the minuses? And then they just wrote a little thing at the bottom and then explicitly said the best resource for this would be TransMath by Voyager Learning, which I will contact and obtain a quote from. So just explicitly saying that the PLC decided that what it says right here, the PLC members and I came to consensus based on research and online resources. So make sure that you say that the PLC and I decided this, and this is what we came up with.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Ravis. Task 4.
I like to think of task 4 as being the culminating activity for the AAPSL, because this is where you're going to develop and facilitate your PLC to develop an action plan. So you've done the research, as Dr. Hamilton has described. You have narrowed down which tool or tools or research-based strategies that you believe you want to implement to address your most pressing need. And then you develop an action plan. And the action plan looks just like what I have here on the screen. And this is the template that you do have to use, and you and your PLC will fill this out. And then in task 4, you also have to talk about it narratively. You will talk about how you came to a consensus about building your specific strategies, and you'll talk about the different pieces of your action plan. So ultimately, this is what you're trying to do. And many of you, or I hope many of you, are looking at this template and thinking, man, this looks an awfully lot like our school improvement plan. And that's exactly what you're doing in the AAPSL. You're doing the process that you would use as a principal in guiding your school through a school improvement plan. Okay.
And just remember, when you complete task 4, you will have to present this to your administration at a minimum, and also hopefully to improvement team or a group of teachers at your school. So there will be a formal presentation once you complete task 4. And then Dr. Crawford, if you would speak about task 5, please.
Sorry about that. So between the AAPSL and then about 6 weeks from now, the AAPTL, you're going to do some reflections on 21 competencies. You will do 12 of those when we do the AAPSL. And so I couldn't get into TaskStream to show you exactly where they would look, but here is a list of the 12 that you're going to work on. So you've got communication, change management, delegation, dialogue and inquiry, judgment, systems thinking, technology, visionary, and then you don't do much with this right here because everything is embedded already in the digital learning competencies. But basically what you're going to do, not only when you do the AAPSL, but then when you do the AAPTL during the second half of this semester, is you're going to write specifically about how you demonstrated work in or mastery of these particular competencies. Like I said, you've got 12 to do with the AAPSL, and then you've got 9 more to do when you do the AAPTL about 6 weeks from now. And so the idea is because this is not only is it a writing intensive course, but it's also it's a working course. It's a course designed to make sure that you don't just read about the importance of communication, but how can you demonstrate that you can effectively communicate. Change management. I guarantee you by the time you get done with both the AAPSL and AAPTL action plan, you're going to understand the complexities of change management, and you're going to be able to speak to it not only from a research point of view, but from a specific, hey, this is what I did over the course of a semester point of view as well. So you're going to have some, limited though it may be, but you're going to have some experience with that. I will tell you right now, for most principals, this is going into the most miserable time of year because we're getting ready to start closing school. Believe it or not, that process starts now. We'll start staffing processes. If you're a Title I school, you've got to have all your money spent by the end of February. You're going to have local funds spent about a week after that. Then they hit you with the staffing part of your school year. So they tell you, hey, this is what you're going to have. This is how many teachers you're going to have. This is how many teachers you're going to get. Oh, by the way, no, this is how many teachers you're going to get cut. All that is happening between now and the official last day of school, whether it's the end of May or beginning of June. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for you to see what second half of communication school looks like. Exercising judgment, systems thinking. I think one of the best ones to do for here is to, if you can find the time and or the stomach, start listening to some of these school board meetings for real. You will find all manner of systems thinking, and you may find yourself wondering what system are they thinking, because what you're hearing at a school board meeting simply is not going to match what you think is going on at your school. Trust me, principals deal with this all the time. But the idea behind both the AAPSL and the AAPTL is to then synthesize, hey, this is this competency. This is how I have specifically demonstrated mastery or engagement of it. The second to that is, and I'm sorry, I couldn't get into TaskStream to actually show you what it would look like. It's not ready to go yet. The second part of that is once we start putting evidences of those as well, so you also need not only, hey, this is what I did, but here's some evidence of that. Here is the school board meeting that talked about the bell schedule for the next 2 years that I was able to sit in on. Here is my input into the 9th grade freshman academy schedule that can go under systems thinking or change management or whatever have you. So when you get to the point where we're putting that in the task screen, and since I'm your coach in Dr. Hamilton's class, I'll be working with you through that. You'll also need an evidence to upload in TaskStream of that. It could be a picture. It could be, JPEGs work well. If you're going to upload documents, please make them PDFs. They just upload easier into TaskStream. So like I said, you'll focus on 12 in the AAPSL and then 9 more for a total of 21 when you get to the AAPSL. But right now, let's just focus in on your school profile and task 1. I promise you, we'll get you to the point where you'll be ready to start knocking on those competencies soon enough.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Crawford. And I'm going to bring up one final document, and then we're going to talk. Coaching agenda session 1, coaching document. Okay. Dr. Hamilton, while I'm talking, if you would go to week 1 and pull up my document. For some reason I've lost it, and that way I won't be wasting time. Yes, down at the bottom. Also, come on down.
Oh, sorry.
Under week 1, yeah.
Mhm.
I think it should be under there. Okay. Week 1, how to begin. Yeah, week 1, how to begin, task 1 of the AAPSL. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've talked about the whole AAPSL. And again, as I said during our class on Tuesday night, you can think about that as the whole elephant. You can't eat the whole elephant at the same time. Now, we've shown you the whole elephant. Now we want you to just take one bite of it, and that is going to be task 1. Okay, and Dr. Hamilton has already explained it. I want to just briefly go over again. You've heard all this other stuff. You need to not really think strongly about it now. This is how you can get started. So I want you to look at number 1 again. Use the AAPSL template found in Blackboard under AAPSL template and materials. That's been stressed. Use it. Review the AAPSL example found in Blackboard under AAPSL template and materials. Make copies of it, download it, look at it, write on it. Use the AAPSL helpful hints document found in Blackboard under AAPSL template and materials. You need to have dialogue with your site supervisor, your principal, concerning the requirements to lead a PLC this semester. Explain what you will be doing. Let them know you will be asking teachers and staff and possibly administration to be a part of the PLC. You will need to put this request in writing, even though you may speak directly to your supervisor. You will also need an affirmative response from them. These emails will serve as artifacts and will be included in your appendices for task 1. We've talked about this. Go ahead this week. Complete your school profile. This is the story of your school. Once you do this school profile, you'll use it 5 more times with each of the next 5 evidences that you use. Task 1, prompt 1. Again, Dr. Hamilton has explained this. Complete your PLC research with a minimum of 3 sources. One of them must be a reference from Richard DeFore. In that, you're going to say, what is a PLC? What does a good PLC look like? How is a good PLC conducted? What are the norms, etc.? This is all according to what the research says. If you will go under to your AAPSL template and materials section, and you will look under the weeks, we have provided you with lots of good resources to begin with. Now, that's not all. You do your own research and you can find other stuff, but you've got everything you need to get started. Next, you're going to select who will serve on your PLC. We say 4 to 5 members. Why did you choose them? What are their strengths? What are their educational credentials? And etc. You can tell us other things about them. You conduct your first PLC meeting and you lead the PLC to discuss the vision and purpose of the PLC. You establish norms with this PLC. There are excellent materials again in Blackboard to assist with this. Then remember, there's always going to be a reference section, APA 7th edition. You're going to have references because guess what? You did research in task 1. You did a research review, so you're automatically going to have references from that. And you will always have an appendices section and at a minimum, your email to conduct the PLC with an affirmative response, meeting agendas, minutes of the meeting, sign-in rosters, and you can also include a picture of your presenting as an artifact. This is how you will begin your work with evidence 1 of the AAPSL. I tell you, do not wait, get started immediately. We will go over this again on Tuesday night with you. But by next Sunday night, not this Sunday night, but by next Sunday night, you have to submit this to us for instructor and peer review. Task 1 will be due for instructor and peer review. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. Now, you don't have to wait until next Sunday to turn it into us. I would encourage you when you get to the place. Now, don't send us half of it. When you send it to us, you send it to us as complete as you think it's the best thing since sliced bread when you send it to us. Now, we're probably going to send it back with some revisions to make or some suggestions on it. But when you send it to us, make sure that you have dotted every I, you've crossed every T. First of all, we don't have time to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It should be as complete as you can possibly make it the first time it comes to us. Now, we'll work with you if there are issues, but don't send us something and say, well, am I off to a good start or what? You are graduate students. You already have a master's degree. You should know how to do quality work and quality writing. So we are expecting a lot out of you the first time. Okay. Professors, what would you like to say in closing? Anybody?
Just take the first foot forward and just know that we're here to guide you for the rest of it.
Yes, yes.
I would say just remember the 2-minute rule we talked about Tuesday night, and that's just doing something for at least 2 minutes, and then usually you keep on doing it for longer than that, but working on it a little bit every single day so that you don't end up having to spend, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're trying to submit something and you're exhausted and your work's not what you really want it to be. Just do that little chunking every single day and start tonight with the research on your school or your school profile if you don't know.
And I'm going to tell our secret. We can go into Blackboard. We know when you've gone into Blackboard, we know when you wait several days before you even do anything in there. We know exactly what time you submit work to us. So we know when you're not always using your time wisely. So please, 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 I beg you, please map out a schedule for you so that you are not stressing at the last minute trying to get things in. It's so important. I'm begging you to please do that. Start that immediately. Okay.
So if you have questions, please ask.
Okay, Ms. Henderson. Okay.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was trying to unmute and
That's okay.
make sure. Okay, so I need to clarify some things because I did look at the handbook. And I know we're saying start a PLC, get everything. All of this is already established in my school, and I already we have to switch off. So I already lead a PLC. So I guess my question is, what's the best? Because everybody in my school is already in a PLC. So I guess my question is trying to get these people to participate in something more than what they're already doing for my sake. So how do I, if I can't use the one that I'm already in, what would be your best suggestion on creating something completely brand new and getting teachers to do this for me? Because that's a hard thing. I mean, trying to get people in your school to do stuff more than what they're already doing is hard.
Okay, Dr. Hamilton, you're a principal. Would you like to respond to that?
Well, so it could be that you can get a group, a small group of 4 or 5 to come together. I don't know what level you are at, but primarily in the elementary schools, the PLCs are like grade level. And so sometimes you might want that mix from across the school, 4 or 5 people, 3, 4 or 5 people, to do that and to work on that. And if you absolutely cannot, and if your principal thinks that you absolutely cannot, and your principal doesn't want you to, then the important thing, if you did use your already established PLC, would be that number one, you have to be the leader of that PLC. And that number two, just like Dr. Stedman said, your PLC is already established. So that's going to be hard to go back and establish those rules and norms and vision and mission and all that. But y'all would just sort of have to wipe that slate clean and move forward with that. And I know that sometimes our district tries to drive our PLCs with what we are doing right now. And some of ours include that letters training, but that's not going to be the purpose of this PLC. This PLC is going to be a group that's going to come together. They're going to analyze data, determine based on the data what the most pressing need in your school, and then try to find something to address that most pressing need. So not knowing exactly how your PLCs are set up and everything makes that a tricky question. And then I think sometimes too, especially if you're in an elementary level, there are groups of people who sort of get left out of that PLC process. Maybe the media specialist, the music teacher, the art teacher, the EC resource teacher. So those would be some other good people that you could consider too, maybe as well. We could talk more.
Okay, that would be fine if y'all am like, if I could set up something to talk to y'all, because I'm in middle school, so it's based on departments. So we actually have math, which I'm math, our grade level, and then we also have another PLC for the entire math department. So that's how it's set up.
Okay, are you in Dr. Hamilton's class?
I am.
Okay, I would suggest, Dr. Hamilton, that she schedules some time specifically with you and Dr. Crawford to go over this.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, Jasmine? We can't hear you. Can't hear you. I can't hear you. Okay, while you're trying to figure it out, feel it.
Yes, my question is, would you advise to get more than just our site supervisor involved? Like, for instance, my assistant principal is over all of our PLCs. And so with her overseeing all of that, could I take the overage of all, because basically what me and her were discussing today is across the board, I've got every department in our high schools PLC and what they're working towards. Is there something that I can take from either the teaching working survey or the overall like math, biology, work keys, ACT, something like that, and developed a PLC that's derived to maybe improve question understanding or vocabulary for ACT or something like that that would benefit the entire school? Or should I try to find something more, I guess you would say, bracketed to a smaller population within our school?
When you get into task 2 and you do your data dive and you start pulling all that information, then you can, if there's a direction you need to go in, you need to make sure that the data that you put out on the table, it leads and guides to that need so that you can say that this is our, you know, with high school, there's going to be a lot of areas you could go in, but your data needs to back it up. Does that make sense? Okay, and yes, I would include that person on my PLC team. If I were you, Philip, I would have that person, that assistant principal on my team. Okay, Addie.
I think Dr. Hamilton addressed mine, and I had typed it in the chat, but
Okay,
she addressed
okay.
it in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Addie. Okay, Tracy.
Here in the area of South Carolina that I'm teaching, we're having a real big issue with COVID. And I'm concerned that I won't be able to get my PLC group together. I've already talked to my principal, and we have the group that we're going to focus on, but I know at least 2 of them are out for COVID.
Can they
it's
join?
just getting worse every day.
Can
So
they join you virtually? Could you set up a Zoom meeting?
I
and
probably can. I know one is really sick, so I don't know if that's gonna hurt us because it'll only be then 2 teachers plus myself. And
well, as long as
probably can get my principal
as
in.
long as you've got 3 and maybe get an administrator to work, you're fine.
And Tracy, I would also say
Oh,
perhaps
okay.
you can record your meeting, and then the person that's too sick to
Mhm.
attend can view the recording at a later time and then be able to pick right
Right.
up at the next
Right.
meeting when they're feeling better.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton, for that.
Okay.
Okay. Again, we realize that all of you are dealing with different situations based on COVID. You're going to have to be creative in working with your teams, just like you've had to be creative working with your students. So we understand that. So just make sure that you have evidence, you know, if you're doing it, you know, if you're having to do a Zoom meeting, just have proof that you're doing a Zoom meeting. Get with them however you can, but don't let this stop you. Move forward.
So I'm sorry. So just like, even if it's just me and the one other teacher, if I can at least video that we've gotten together and then have the evidence that my other teachers are out on COVID or what have you.
If that's
will
what
that
you're
work?
having to deal with, and that we hope that doesn't continue to be that way, but work with what you've got to begin with. Okay.
Tracy,
Okay.
in task 1 in that PLC section, the PLC meeting section, the 3rd section, you would describe that narratively. Even though only 2 participants were present because the other 2 participants were home ill with COVID, we did record this session. You can make that an appendix. We recorded this section and sent it so that they felt better. They were able to view it, and then they subsequently started participating again, you know, next week when they return.
We know what
Thank
y'all are
you.
dealing with, so
Okay.
we understand. So don't let that stop you from moving forward.
Okay.
Good question.
I have one other question, because I was a little confused. So my principal was saying that he wanted to basically look at our SLOs as part of our evidence, and I told him I wasn't sure if that was doable. So I'm just asking you.
Okay.
Are you in South Carolina, Tracy?
She's in
Yes,
South
I'm
Carolina.
in South
Yes.
Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And that's your that's like your integrate test.
Student learning.
Your student learning
Yes, the student
objectives.
learning objectives that the teachers have to have you start out and you have a benchmark test and they have to write demographics and the whole nine, and then they submit that and principals have reviews with you, and then once some may have, depending on whether or not they're teaching an EOC, would have a mid benchmark, and then of course the end benchmark teachers would have the EOC, and then you have another conference with the principal with regards to your results and what has to be done moving forward. Sorry, my connection is a little slow.
Okay, just remember again, your data drive in task 2 is going to help determine what specifically the most pressing need is, and that's going to move you forward with how your PLC works or how they should work. So again, I understand what you're saying, but that's being preconceived at this point. That may not be what the most pressing need is. And again, you don't need to work with something that's so broad that it's going to be so difficult to work with. You need to, if I were any of you, I would narrow my focus to work with a smaller subgroup, again, on your grade level. And if you're in math, you can look at school-wide something, but sometimes when you work with that smaller subgroup, those are the students that if you work intensely with them, you've got a better chance of improving overall test scores for your school and moving those students up versus trying to look at the whole gamut of things. This is your opportunity to help deal with a small population of students that maybe the principal can't because they just don't have enough time. You are that new arm that they've got that can work with that small population of students. So don't make this harder than it has to be. I would really zero in on something that was not real big, but it's going to be effective no matter what you do. Did I say that right, Dr. Hamilton?
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, so for instance, I'll just say at my school, we exceed growth with on EBOS with all of our subgroups except for our English language learning population, and they meet growth, and that's fine. They meet growth, but everybody else is exceeding. So what we are doing is we are having a morning tutoring program, and we're calling it Power Up. And is primarily focused on our English language learners, where the teachers are getting a little extra stipend to come in early and work with them to build their oral reading fluency. We're using programs and materials to build their oral reading fluency for 30 minutes every morning. And then we're progress monitoring that every week, just like Dr. Revis was talking about in the action plan in task 4. We're progress monitoring them every week to see if their oral reading fluency is improving. And if it's not, and we just started this week, but if it's not, then we'll go back after a couple of weeks and change our what we're doing. So if that sort of gives you an idea about what Dr. Stedman was talking about, is that one little small intensive group with one singular focus. Because if you try to do too much, then you're not going to get anything accomplished. It's sort of like the aggregation of marginal gains. You can do 1,000 things 1% better. You can't do one thing 1,000% better, or you can't do things 1,000% better. So yeah, does that make sense?
And let me stop here because I don't want to make it. I don't want listen. And I understand where you're coming, Tracy, and all of you. Go back to what Dr. Hamilton presented and what I said at the very end, how to get started with task 1. At this point, that's all you need to do. Do your school profile, get through task 1. Let us talk about task 1 again on Tuesday. And then between Tuesday and Thursday, we will also begin leading you into task 2. What's happening is that you're thinking more about task 2 than you are about getting task 1 done at this point. So try to get task 2 out of your mind right now. We've introduced it, but get task 1 over with. And once you do that, task 2 will become much more understandable. Does that make sense? Did I say that right, Dr. Crawford, Dr. Revis, Dr. Hamilton? Okay.
Yes,
let's do that.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I think we've been really telling our candidates what to do to be successful. I'm going to flip the switch a little bit. The people who have the most trouble and struggle with task 1 are those who out of the gate start saying they're going to work on vocabulary development in task 1. You don't know that yet. You've got to analyze your data. So build your PLC, willing people to come together who are willing to meet with you and look at data and examine data for once a week for the first couple, I would say for the first 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to be meeting with you. So get some people who are really committed and go through the process. Task 1 is research and an organizational meeting. That's all you do. And
I'm going to close with this. Just, I've been doing this business a long time. I'm old. So even with that, let's say, for instance, I was at a high school for 6 years. And I really was. Let's say, for instance, they moved me from that high school to an elementary school. Now, I could tell you up front, back and left about my high school because I'd been there for 6 years. But if I went to that elementary school, I'd have to do what you're doing now. I'd have to analyze the data. I'd have to get in there and I'd have to dig. I couldn't just go in there and say at this elementary school, well, I know what the need is here. I wouldn't know. And see, you think you know, but you don't know. Again, it may be, you may hit the nail on the head, but you don't know that yet. Okay, so make sure we've got to follow the process. It's like this. How many times have you bought something that you had to put together and you got tired of reading the instructions and you just started putting it together, and when you got through, you had stuff left over? Well, it was supposed to go somewhere, but you didn't read the instructions and follow the directions. And it's like a cake. If you leave something out of that cake's not going to be good in that recipe. So we've got to follow the recipe step by step, okay? I've beat that dead horse to death, so I'm going to do it. But thank y'all for being here. You're going to be fine. I promise you. You're going to be fine. Just hang with us. And as we've said, in about 3 weeks, you're going to look back. In 3 weeks, I promise you, you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, look how far I have come already. It will happen. Just remember, I've been doing this a long time. They've been doing this a long time. We have seen every class. We have seen when we can look at your eyes and see the light bulb has come on. So, it's going to happen. Good night, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, hopefully at 6 o'clock. Now, don't forget about the session with Dr. Bishop, okay?
Doctor, I just had one quick question.
Go ahead, Jonathan, go ahead.
Is it okay if I do my PLC agendas as a Google Doc and then download it as a Word document or take a screenshot of it? Would that work as well?
Just remember, we're not going to open up any documents. We have to see the documents. We have to see the actual documents. Don't put links in there for us to have to open up.
Okay, so if I take a picture and put it as a Word in the Word document?
Yes, that would work. Yes.
Okay.
That's an artifact. Yes.
Google Docs, Google Slides simply do not work well in TaskStream or Blackboard. It's a nightmare. So let's try to stick with Word primarily.
Word.
PDF if you have to.
Yeah. Word is much more compatible, Jonathan. Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Okay,
Good
good night, everybody.
Good night.
And
Night.
this will be, it'll be late when I get it done, but this will be in your Blackboard shell later on.
Thank you all. Good night. Call us if you
Night.
need us.
Instructors, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Stedman. We appreciate you and your leadership.
And I'm glad the hat is back.
Yes.
You better. When I went in Publix today and they were selling these like plastic sleds, like they think we're gonna get some icy or something this weekend, you
Yeah.
know. They must
You-
just keep them in the back room and bring them
Yeah.
out every 10 years or so.
You better go buy your milk and bread. The shelves
There
will
is
be
no
empty.
milk or bread.
Dr. Stedman,
Yeah,
can I ask you guys a quick question? I'm so sorry I was late and you may have
That's okay,
covered it, but
Cindy,
I
yeah.
had a question about my school profile.
okay.
I've been at my school since it started, and I know most of the things about the profile because I've been there since the very first day it opened. But I'm having a hard time finding like the resources to cite the information that I know. Do you have any thoughts on that or suggestions?
Start with your school improvement plan. That's a good place to look. If you can't find it on your school specific improvement plan, also go to the district website. They may have some about you or about these schools information there.
I've looked at all of that, and I guess that I'm seeing the
But
like
here's the
it
other
don't
question.
go back that far.
So here's the other question, and this may be something that you may not be able to fix immediately. When was the last time the school's profile was actually updated?
I don't know because I can't find a good one.
So that would be an issue. Now, you don't have the time to go back and rewrite the entire plan. But that is also something that you may note given the information that you find. So that you don't know when it was updated and you've been there since the school opened, which was whenever.
2010.
Okay, so we're looking at 12 years at this point. And so just find what you can in those sources, but then I would also say, it hasn't been updated. And so you really can't speak to whether or not it's the most, 12 years schools usually change. And if you can't document what that change is, then just document the fact that you have been there since the school opened and this is the most recent thing you can find and you can't speak to that date.
Okay.
And
Thank
again, whatever district you're in, the district office could actually serve as a part of that, the school where the superintendent's office is. That become, what school district are you in?
Wednesday and Forsyth County Schools.
Then, you may cite the Winston-Salem Forsyth schools and, that could actually be some of your documentation there.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate y'all's feedback.
You are
I'm
welcome.
been digging in.
That's okay. Thank y'all so much.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.